any void that's created in our world is going to naturally want to be filled. That's what vacuums have happened when we create them on our planet. They naturally get filled. That's just how our universe works and how it was created to be able to have balance. And so last week I talked about detoxification. Now, detoxification is great. However, if you create a void, you now need to figure out how to fill that void and be able to make sure that our bodies have the right nutrients, have the vitamins and minerals that it needs in order to sustain healthy metabolism. So today I want to talk to you about that, and we'll talk about a few vital nutrients that are going to help support that, and then how you can find those in your diet. If you like this video and you want to learn more, I'd love for you to subscribe and hit the bell so that way you get notified when I have more videos just like this one. So first, this all interrelates with the Krebs cycle. That is how our body creates energy, ATP, like I talked about before. And that is a rather detailed cycle, but there's specific things that cycle needs in order to make a full loop to produce energy. So there are certain parts within that our diet can help support to make sure that cycle is going as it should be. And so the first thing that I really want to talk about are B vitamins. Now these are coenzymes, and they're part of the Krebs cycle, and they're used in order to help that Krebs cycle go. And so they're really, really important. And when we eat, that's the main way that we get B vitamins. You can supplement with them as well, and that can help. But the B vitamins are a really important part of supporting our Krebs cycle. For our Krebs cycle to work properly, we need to be able to have thymine, riboflavin, niacin, and pantothenic acid. So these are a few B vitamins that are all necessary for our Krebs cycle to work properly. And like I talked about, these can be found in our diet, but if we aren't eating the foods that we need that have these nutrients in them, then we're likely to have our metabolism not quite function properly. So this is where I'm talking about that void. We need to make sure that when we're detoxifying or when we're trying to get our metabolism back on track, that we are providing our body with the tools that it needs in order to sustain that. So this is one of the first areas that people need to keep in mind. B vitamins are very important, and they're water soluble. So we excrete them every day. And so if we're not getting a consistent inflow of B vitamins, it's easy for us to become deficient in them. Next, I want to talk about iron, copper, and manganese. These are elements, as you probably know, and so they are minerals. That's what they're really considered. And these three minerals are important because we have enzymes that these elements kind of sit in the center of, or they're part of the structure of that enzyme. And if we really don't have enough of those minerals in order to build that enzyme in our body, then they're not going to be able to be there. That whole enzyme isn't going to be able to be there to have the Krebs cycle continue on. So these are things that are really important for us to make sure that we're getting. And this is part of why I've talked about things like gardening and eating organic food, because when we eat those things, they're more likely to have the minerals from the soil that we're going to need. Other foods can sometimes be deficient in minerals, especially if they've been kind of monocropped. So the soil is depleted of these minerals, therefore the food is deficient in these minerals, therefore we can be deficient in these minerals. So that's something to consider when we're choosing foods as well. Iron and copper and manganese are all really important in developing other parts of our body as well. So not only are they part of this metabolic cycle, but they're also integral in other parts of our body being able to function properly. So next I want to talk about carnitine. Carnitine is another substituent that we can get from our food and our diet, and this really helps with transporting fatty acids. Fatty acids are a source of of fuel for part of our metabolism. And so this is really important for us to be able to get as well. And if people are vegan or vegetarian, they can really be deficient in that. And it is something that we might want to consider when we're making our own diet parameters, food rules and things like that, so that we make sure that we're having enough nutrients from different sources, that we're going to be able to get enough of substances like carnitine. Next, I want to talk about acetylcholine. Now, this is going to be the main topic of my video today, and that's because acetylcholine really plays a vital role in a few different areas of our body. First, it is what starts our Krebs cycle. We can't start it without acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is important because not only does it start our Krebs cycle and our metabolism, but it also is a neurotransmitter. And so what that means is it helps communicate between nerves. So in our nerves, we have little pockets where acetylcholine is released, and it's able to communicate to the next nerve in the line that there is a signal that needs to be passed. And specifically, it helps regulate our parasympathetic nervous system. And so that means it can help regulate when our digestive tract contracts, the blood flow that we have in constriction or release of our blood vessels. And because of this, it helps put us in that rest and digest state. And when we don't have enough, we're more likely to be in the fight or flight state. So we know that both of those exist in our body, and neurologically we can shift between one or the other, and what factors can contribute to that. Though when we don't have enough acetylcholine in our body, then we don't have enough of a neurotransmitter that can help put us into a state where we're going to be able to rest and digest properly. We also don't have enough of it. We're not going to be able to metabolize things very quickly because we don't have that starting line. We don't have that substance in order to start the cycle going. So really that's going to be very important in making sure that our body works properly. Now, acetylcholine, there's two parts to that word, acetyl and choline. And choline is actually a type of a protein that we can get from certain foods. So we can get them from liver. Not many of us enjoy eating liver, but that's one source of it. We can get it from eggs, beef, chicken, broccoli. We can get it from fish. We can get it from cauliflower as well as beans. So there's a couple of different sources to be able to get choline. And then our body can take that and form it into acetylcholine, where it will be able to be used in some of these different processes. So that's really what we want to consider when we're making dietary choices. Are we eating enough foods? If we're vegetarian, are we eating enough broccoli and cauliflower and beans in order to provide choline for our metabolism to function? And so some of these things are things to consider depending on whether you're vegetarian or a meat eater, but also considering some of those other components such as B vitamins, the micronutrients, the iron, copper, and manganese as well. So let's talk about what we can do to help support those as well. If you have any questions about understanding this more, I'd love to have you comment below, so that way I can share a little bit more about what I know with you. So I'd love to get a conversation going about any of these topics. First, we need to eat real food. That means getting these nutrients from real food products. For B vitamins, that can include things like meat, it can include eggs, beans, it can include certain types of leafy greens, dairy. And so if someone is vegan, they might need to consider what other sources there are for some of these B vitamins so that they can get them through their diet, as well as possibly supplementation. For iron, copper, and manganese, eating leafy greens, those are really high in micronutrients. Eating things like certain types of nuts and legumes, those can help with providing different micronutrients that we might not get through vegetables as well. And then also nuts and beans can help provide things like manganese. So that way when we put all of these things together in a well-rounded meal, we're able to make sure that we're getting a well-rounded nutrient profile as well. For things like carnitine, usually meat and eggs are a lot of those sources that will provide that nutrient. And so those are things that someone might want to consider. Some types of dairy, as well as asparagus. So if someone is plant-based and they're not eating meat, like myself, asparagus is a rich source of carnitine. So including that throughout our week, throughout our month, making sure that we're getting some of those things in our diet to make sure we have a well-rounded nutrient profile. So one of the things, the next thing that I want to talk about is eating the rainbow. So like I talked about, a lot of these different foods that have these nutrients in them are going to be very different colors, and that's going to reflect the type of nutrients that they have. So eating the rainbow, eating as many different types of vegetables and fruits that have different colors in them in a meal can provide enough variety that we're able to absorb these nutrients to help perpetuate our metabolism functioning properly. And last, I want to talk about smoothies and juicing. If we're able to concentrate the micronutrients that we put into our body without adding the stress of digesting a lot of cellulose, which is fiber, in these fruits and vegetables, it can help our body be able to absorb them faster and be able to sustain metabolism. If we're already somewhat depleted on these nutrients, it really can help with restoring those kind of depleted stores of B vitamins or iron or copper, things that we might not necessarily have large stores of in our body and might need to be rebuilt up. So juicing is really great because it takes all of the fiber out. We're able to absorb the nutrients, the micronutrients in that food's extract essentially, and then really just absorb it. So juicing is really great. Smoothies is another way because it can help with breaking up that fiber and allowing us to be able to eat a little bit more than we might be able to otherwise eat in a meal. So there you have it. There's 3 ways that you can start to support and fill that void that's created by detoxification and support your metabolism. So I really hope you liked this video. If so, I'd love for you to share it with someone else who might need it. And until next time, be well.